Praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever. One of the useful things about recent alleged arguments between popes and politicians is that it helps us to focus on exactly what the Church is and what it is not. The Church is most certainly not a political party and doesn't reflect the policies of any particular party. Depending on different governments, sometimes certain positions of a party reflect Catholic social teaching or ethics. Sometimes, as in the case of Nazism or communism, they're violently opposed to the Church. We now have an Augustinian pope. The man to study more deeply on this issue, if you have the time and the inclination, is, of course, St. Augustine of Hippo, in particular, the City of God. We all sometimes fall into the trap of seeing the Church merely as an entirely human institution, even if that perception is often unconscious. As a body made up of men and women who are sinners, the human side of the Church does indeed reflect the faults and failings of humanity. We have the difficult task of living with the paradox that the Church experiences both those human weaknesses, and yet it is truly the body of Christ, at once both human and supernatural. I suspect that without a deep spiritual life, the human failures can lead to that temptation, which is most certainly from the devil, as God doesn't tempt, to abandon the Church. It's strange to believe that we would somehow be better off on our own, or joining one of the more than 60,000 denominations. Christ himself, the Word of truth, promised that the powers of hell would never prevail over the Church. There is simply no other human institution that has survived so long. I think of the wise and witty words of the great Hilaire Belloc, who said that the Catholic Church is an institution I am bound to hold divine, but for unbelievers a proof of its divinity might be found in the fact that no merely human institution conducted with such knavish imbecility would have lasted a fortnight. We can all see, bewail and bemoan that knavish imbecility. There's lots of it about. Not only, by the way, the preserve of just the clergy, but we do see, with eyes opened only with the light of faith, the splendid reality of what being a member of the Church really is and really entails. This supernatural vision, I would suggest, is needed more than ever, precisely because so many are tempted to see the Church either as a social club, a house of affirmation for our weaknesses, or most dangerously, a political entity reflecting or opposing our own policies and prejudices. The writer of the letter to the Hebrews, who may or may not have been St. Paul, that's a debate for biblical scholars over a glass of sherry, gives us the tonic we need in these turbulent times, when the ship of Peter is lashed by the waves of confusion, prejudice, and sometimes a lack of clarity, the fault of which often lies with those specifically entrusted to be crystal clear in their theological pronouncements. In the 12th chapter of Hebrews, we have a beautiful exposition of what membership of the Church involves, including the fact that, as the writer says, what the Church is, both heavenly and earthly, it is the place in which everyone is a firstborn son and a citizen of heaven. Membership of this extraordinary body gives us, Hebrews says, possession of an unshakable kingdom. No earthly body promises that. All earthly bodies will shake and eventually fall. Only the Church is unshakable. No powers, politicians, or potentates can promise that. Brethren, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, like a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour.